Welcome to another episode of D on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Toni Hoopingarner. Got that right, everyone. I know that was one of those. I mean, I was nervous ahead of time, but luckily it's pronounced exactly like it's spelled. So I lucked out there at least. But she's a two-time nationally qualified NBC bikini competitor, and she's coming to us all the way from Michigan, where the weather is almost as bad as it is here. So I got so much more respect for my fellow Midwesterners as opposed to like some of the guests that I have from like Florida and California, where they're just like, oh, it's 50 degrees, I got to wear a sweater outside now. It's like, yeah, I hate you. So, but most importantly, she's our current guest, Toni. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I normally ask what the weather's like for my first question, but we know it's going to be bad, so I'm just going to skip that altogether. So why don't we just get started by, you just giving us your backstory on how you got into, health and fitness and how that eventually led you becoming a bodybuilder.
Yeah, sure. It's kind of a long story, so hopefully we have the time.
Take as much time as you want. Trust me, you're making my job easier.
So I've been an athlete my whole life. I grew up playing softball, basketball, volleyball. I ran track. I did hurdles in track. I've done all the things. Softball was always my favorite. I've actually continued to play that into adulthood.
What position?
I actually play center field, left field. Yep, I grew up playing infield, but then once I got to varsity, they've moved me to the outfield. But yeah, I love it. So I've done that my whole life. I'm pretty familiar. I was always pretty familiar with the weight room and stuff. Coaches having us work out, do suicide sprints, all the things. Then I went to college. I actually tried out for Wayne State University's softball team, threw my back out during the tryout. So did not play in college, but once that healed up, continued to play. And then in college, I just kind of continued to really just putz around the gym, like not too seriously. In 2012, I got married and kind of just adapted to married life. Didn't really end up working out very much. Continued to play softball. Was athletic, but didn't really train really hard. I didn't really know much about proper training or nutrition at that point. So then, come 2014, we had our first baby. I gained 50 pounds. Yep, did nothing throughout that pregnancy, was a complete sloth, did not watch what I ate at all. So when I had him, he was about 18 months old when I finally got back into the gym. I walked in the gym after it had been years and looked around the weight room and went, oh, I have no idea what I am doing anymore. So I hired a personal trainer. He was great. My first trainer was great. He helped me out a lot. He taught me how to lift. I had coaches my whole life, but no one ever taught me proper lifting technique. So this trainer did that for me. I didn't know how to deadlift properly or squat properly or any of the things. I ended up doing one-on-one kickboxing with him, lost all my baby weight, and then got pregnant again. That time I did things a little differently. I stayed really active. I kept training really hard. I was that woman in the gym where people were probably side-eyeing me like, oh my God, this pregnant chick is nuts. I continued one-on-one kickboxing with him all throughout my pregnancy until I was probably 34 weeks pregnant. So I was like 8 months pregnant by the time the gym owner was kind of like, can we please freeze your account? I don't need you to have this baby in my gym on the treadmill. So had my second son. I did still end up gaining 50 pounds again for that pregnancy. So that was rough, but I bounced back much quicker that second time because I kept my training up throughout that. So I ended up giving birth to both of my sons at over 200 pounds. And I'm only 5'6". So that was a lot of weight on my smallish frame. So after I had my second son, he was born in June of 2017. And by December, I was kind of like, okay, it's time. We got to get back on track. And I have a really good friend who was also a mom that started competing, and she had been competing already for several years with a smaller organization called UFE. So I contacted her and I was like, look, I got to do something. I got to get this baby weight off, blah, blah, blah. She said, do a show. And I was like, girl, I love pizza. I love beer. I can't do that. And she was like, I did it. you can do it. So December of 2017, I started training for my first bodybuilding competition, and I stepped on stage that next September. In September of 2018 was my first bodybuilding show. I did terrible, was not ready, came in last place, cried hysterically, and then I kind of like pulled up my big girl pants. I'm like, I'm an athlete. I've been doing this my whole life, just in different sports. I'm like, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna do this better. And then my next competition, I ended up winning an overall with UFE in their fitness division. Ended up winning my pro card with them in 2020, and then I first started an NPC in 2020 as well. So I became nationally qualified in 2020 and 2021 with NPC bikini. And here we are. I never expected, I expected it to be a one and done competition, but I'm too competitive for that and I got addicted to it. So here we are.
I can't tell you the amount of times that I've had guests that have had the same exact thing where I thought it was just gonna be a one and done thing, and then next thing you know, here we are years later,
Yep.
just doing that. But I gotta say, first of all, so is Wayne State, is that in Nebraska?
Wayne State, no, in Detroit.
Oh, in Detroit. Okay, yeah, because I know that
Downtown
there's like a
Detroit.
Wayne State in
Yep, the
Nebraska, and I
heart
was
of
like, yep.
Detroit, which I love Detroit. I'm from Southeast Michigan. Detroit's only like 20 minutes away. I mean, I grew up in the suburbs, but we love Detroit. We love M&M. We love our buddies' deep dish pizza and our coney dogs.
You even love the Lions?
We aren't football fans at my house. We
That's for
watch
the best.
college
That's for the
football
best.
at
That's
my
for the
house.
best. Yeah.
We are Tigers fans. We're a baseball family. We love our baseball. So
Well, these are all the rally monkeys from stadiums that I visited in as a kid, basically with my parents. So, yeah,
okay.
huge.
So have you ever been? Were you able to visit Tiger Stadium before it got destroyed?
Both Tiger Stadium and Comerica Park I've been to.
Good,
Yeah.
wonderful.
I preferred Tiger Stadium. I thought that was more of a classic stadium that I enjoyed more. But yeah,
I
Comerica was
agree.
nice.
I agree.
I can just say though, I'm not gonna lie, we were very, very, very nervous in that neighborhood around Comerica Park, because that neighborhood around the stadium is not the best neighborhood on the planet. But hey, it's a great stadium. It was a great. I mean, I'm a diehard Twins fan too, so it's
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
we have that. But just to give you an influence on how much of a baseball family we are, my older brother's name is Nolan and my name's Ryan, named after Nolan Ryan, the pitcher. So
That's amazing.
and I have a younger brother too as well, and my dad wanted to name him Cal, but mom said no more baseball names, so we named him Mitchell instead, so it was either gonna be Cam or Hunter, or Cal or Hunter, but yeah, so I do gotta ask though too, because especially getting into the sport of bodybuilding, I mean, there's so many myths that the general public has about the sport.
Oh
Just
yeah.
because, and when you add the female aspect on it too, it's like 10 times even more. But was there any
Yep.
concerns that you had about the sport going into it, or was it one of those things where you just wanted to dive right in and see what happens?
Oh god, no, I was terrified. Terrified. My very first show, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I blacked out. On stage. I walked out, everything went black. I did my routine, came back, and I was like, what just happened? I will say, um, being in the spotlight, quote, as an athlete my whole life is very different than stepping on stage wearing next to nothing in a sparkly bikini. That's for sure. So that was my only fear. I had no concerns about anything else other than stage fright. But you learn and you get better and you hire good posing coaches. And yeah.
Oh, and I also love to talk genetics on this podcast too, because everyone's on social media, and I hear this all the time, and I just want to strangle these people. I want her abs, I want their back, I want his arms. It's just like, you do not understand that if you work out just like this person, you are not going to see those results.
Yeah.
Whenever someone first gets started working out too, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off, that they don't have
Yep.
to train as much, and they have that one body part that just drags behind it. They have to train to oblivion. For me, it was my back where there's the one thing that really took off, but I'm also 6'3", and it was funny that you mentioned that you were giving birth at 200 pounds. I'm 210 pounds, but I'm also 6'3", so that's a little bit different in the
Yeah.
shape, but my lower body was just absolutely shot, where, I mean, I had to train, I've always made the joke, I could inject pure muscle into my legs or calves, and they wouldn't even gain an ounce of it. But what was one body part that really took off for you, and then what was one body part that you still to this day are just dragging behind?
So funny enough, my back. It doesn't matter. I'm in season, off season. I have men, women at the gym constantly like, "Oh my god, you're back." And I do work out back. I only really need to work it out once a week though, but my back looks jacked all the time. All the time. And then my glutes are stubborn. My judges' feedback every show from this whole year was bigger glutes, which is crazy because I've been like I said, I have a very athletic build. I always have. But it's not even my quads or my hamstrings, it's my glutes. So we have to be careful with isolating my glutes only so that we don't hit too much leg. And that's like a whole, but that's why I have a coach. So yeah, bringing up the glutes, man. But every girl wants that booty, right? So
That's why I've said when you get into bodybuilding, get ready to really micro analyze your entire body, because it's not just, oh, you need to work on your legs, it's, oh, you need to work on your glutes, and that's, oh, what part of your glute then do you really want to,
yes.
it just becomes so anal when it comes to, just the stuff that you have to really focus on. But it's definitely, it's a part of the sport. But this is so much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport, and that mental changes that you make are 10 times more important. Unfortunately, most of the people in your life won't really recognize it as much because they'll just see the physical changes and be like, oh, Tony, you look amazing. But what has this journey been like for you mentally? Because that, I mean, it's 10 times more important than the physical changes.
Yeah, the mental side is definitely the more difficult. Like the workouts come easy to me. I love being in the gym. The diet is hard. I mean, having to take Tupperware everywhere kind of sucks, and people don't understand at first. But mentally, the discipline is really hard because your life doesn't stop just because you're prepping for a bodybuilding show. So, I still have to work. I have personal clients. I still am a mom and I still am a wife and all these other things. And it's very mentally draining. And it comes along real talk with lots of body image issues. If you're someone that has body image issues, jumping into bodybuilding could really help or it could really hurt, depending on how you end up taking criticism and feedback from judges, from your coach. Comparison syndrome. When I was prepping for nationals, there were several accounts I had to mute on Instagram because it was taking a huge toll on my mental health with the comparison. And it's like, you really have to just look at your own journey and how far you've come from the beginning to where you are now. So that's the hardest part, but it's I mean, having a good support system helps, but you have to know when to stop with the self-sabotage of comparing and all of that other kind of stuff.
Well, just some of the feedback that you get in general. I could never be a female bodybuilder and be on Instagram. I would shut it down after about a day. So more power to you guys anyways, just for even, staying on there. But yeah, just that feedback too. I read some of the comments, some people post on one of these things and it's like, okay, yeah, thanks for your 2 cents. Really. It's like, I really needed that. But yeah, it is just ridiculous. But what is your time management like? Cause like being a mom and being a bodybuilder, those are two things that don't really, that in an ideal world would not be in the same picture really.
No. So I live by my planner, literally. I have a physical planner. My Google Calendar looks like a rainbow threw up on it. I have to time block everything, or else things get missed. My full work days are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, typically because my both of my kids are in full time school Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday, Thursdays, I don't work very much because my youngest is only in preschool and he doesn't have school those days. Um, but yeah, between content and personal check-ins for clients and all of that kind of stuff, working for yourself, it's hard to find that line of, okay, it's 6 p.m. and a client just texted me. I really shouldn't be working. I shut it down at 5 p.m. too. Just I try to like everyone else. But it still creeps in that, okay, I need to answer that person back. But my clients are really great about respecting the fact that even though I do what I do, I still have, a family to do all the things. But luckily, being self-employed allows me to train how I want to train and work everything else around my schedule. But yeah, I live and die by my planner and my shared Google Calendar with my husband. If something's not on the calendar, like all hell breaks loose, basically.
I mean, you brought it up, and I love to talk because the one thing that I remember most from a business class I took in college is the professor said, yeah, if you get in business with yourself, be prepared to have the term work week be completely erased because your life is your work week then basically, where then it's like he said, like he had a buddy that worked 9 to 5, and the favorite thing about working 9 to 5 is every night at 5 o'clock, I'm done. Like there's nothing else to do. But if you
Yeah.
start your own business, that never happens. You can shut off your phone, you can do whatever, but you'll still even just be thinking about it and just be.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing that you really gotta, think of too. But do you have any tips for any people out there in time management other than like planners and stuff? Because I'm gonna be honest, I've never used a planner in my entire life except in grade school, and then even then I was like, okay, I'm a go with the flow kind of guy thing too, so that's completely different. But any advice do you have for anyone in general just to help them with their hectic schedules?
Yeah, so I utilize actual timers and reminders on my phone a lot. So if I'm supposed to be working, I literally will set an alarm on my phone for, okay, when my 2 p.m. alarm goes off, I'm done working for the day, or for I need to take a break to go do whatever. Utilize my Google Home as well. I say, I don't want to say it because she'll turn on, but hey, whatever. Set a timer for an hour, and then it's like, okay, when that timer goes off, then I need to break up my day and go do something else. I really utilize technology a lot to help me out. Otherwise, I get very sucked into what I'm doing, and then other things fall to the side that are also important, but just don't get done because I'm stuck doing something and just get too involved with it.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about like just getting stuck on things, nutrition, that is a thing that a lot of people get stuck on. And it's
Hmm.
such an important part of this lifestyle. I mean, abs are made in the kitchen. All that other stuff is completely true about the nutrition part. What has been your experience like just with the nutritional changes that you have to make when you become a bodybuilder? Because it's probably the biggest changes you're gonna have to make in this entire lifestyle.
One thing I will never forget is the first time I worked with a nutrition coach. This was pre-bodybuilding. This was just trying to lose baby weight. A good friend of mine went to school for that. She was like, "Oh yeah, I'll get you on a meal plan, all that stuff." The first thing she wanted me to do, she was like, "This whole week, I just want you to write down everything you eat and then send it to me at the end of the week." I said, "Okay, sure." Looking back on it now, there was one day for lunch I literally ate cheese and crackers and sun-dried tomato basil pesto because I used to literally think that cheese and peanut butter were good sources of protein. I was that person. I was that person. Um, there is protein in them, as we know, but for me, it was just recognizing and learning and realizing the breakdown of actual macronutrients and micronutrients as well. So that was huge for me. Once I started prioritizing the right amount of protein and balancing out my carbs and my fats in my diet, that's when I noticed like huge body composition changes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was a sucker too with the peanut butter in the beginning where I was
Hmm.
just like, hey, get me my peanut butter and then next thing you know, you're like, hey, I put on like 5 pounds in like the last month. Like, what the hell's going on now? And then you're just like, then you really look at what's inside peanut butter and you're like, oh, I was making a
Well, and
mistake
then
for
you
then.
don't weigh it.
Yeah.
Like people don't measure. They're like, "Oh, this is a serving," and then you actually weigh out a serving of peanut butter, and it's so
Yeah.
sad.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah, believe me, I've been there and done that when it comes to those mistakes. But I mean, the biggest thing that I would have never guessed in a million years before I started this podcast that it's the hardest thing for a lot of these competitors is posing. Would have never guessed it in a million years, but now I compare it to like being a perfect driver where you can be a great driver, you can never be a perfect driver, you can be a great poser, you can never be a perfect poser. What has your experience with posing been like?
Oh my gosh, it was so bad in the beginning. So bad. Uh, this year, I mean, that's still my weakest point for sure. Like, get me in the gym, my food, all the other stuff is fine, but showcasing that, showcasing your physique properly in the 20 seconds that you're on stage is crucial because if it doesn't matter if you have the best physique out there, if you don't show it off well, you're not going to place. So I hired this year my posing coach. Her name's Lucia Malave. She placed top 10 at Olympia this year. She has helped me exponentially. We just do FaceTime meetings, but it's funny, I ran through my old routine with her and she was like, "No, that this is not how we need to showcase your body." And I was like, "Please just tell me what to do." So she created a routine for me and oh my gosh, like it was night and day. The way your body can look so different in the different posing. That one If you're first getting into bodybuilding, honestly, the number one tip I have for you is hire a good posing coach. I mean, a good coach in general is crucial, but especially for female um, posing, don't skimp out on posing. Don't let your one friend who, like, even me, like, I'm not really a posing coach. I would never like be like, "Oh yeah, come pose with me." No, hire a professional. Hire someone that's an IFBB pro. Hire someone that's a bikini Olympian. Because just do that right out the gate because it's crucial.
Out of your poses that you do, what is your favorite and what is your least favorite?
Oh man. The side glute hair flip is always the best, right? I will say the hardest to hold for a long period of time when we're up there is honestly my front pose. front pose is hardest to hold in comparison where it's funny, in one of my shows this year, a good friend of mine was at the show and she was filming comparisons for me. And I was like, oh my God, we were up there forever. She goes, they literally had you in your front pose for 5 minutes, 5 full minutes.
Jeez.
You can't breathe. You start getting lightheaded because you have to keep your core tight. You have to keep your booty popped and your back is sore and you can't breathe and you're sweating under those lights. So for me, holding that front pose for like the longer periods of time is definitely the hardest.
Yeah, that's one thing about the posing that most people don't understand is that, like, yeah, that's the hardest thing is the holding the pose because, like, it's a workout in and of itself, and the human body is not meant to be in that flexed of a state for that,
No,
long of a period of time. But
definitely not.
I mean, just that old, especially with bikini, you sort of have to have your own sort of like flair and
Mhm.
pizzazz that has to come with it. Was that something that you had to learn, or was that something that you were just born with? Because some people that I talked to were just born with it. Some people had to learn it. Where'd you fall on that?
I had to learn it. I kind of had to create like this alter ego person when I was in my posing routine. I really tried to just evoke my posing coach. She's Brazilian, so
Oh, of
she was
course.
born with the sass. So I'm like, okay, I need to create my own version of Lucia when I'm practicing posing because it did not come naturally to me at all. I really had to work at it, and it's something I continue to have to work at to stay on top of my game for sure.
Absolutely. And when you're
You
walking
know,
on,
Beyonce has Sasha Fierce. I
oh
I
yeah,
needed to create something like that for myself, you know?
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like me, like I turn on a different thing when as soon as I press this damn record button with this podcast. Yeah, so it's I totally understand that. But when you're walking on that stage, what is that feeling like for you? Because I mean, like you've been through a prep, which is it's hell. Like let's be completely honest with it. Anyone that says different, it's like, and I've had people be like, "Oh, I love prep," and I was like, "Oh, I have an insane asylum that I can check you into for the safety of the public." But what is that moment like for you when you finally walk on that stage? After the months upon months of all that hard work, and you're just able to show off all that hard work.
Um, it's honestly incredible, and we're on stage for such a short time for your individual routine. It's literally, I mean, I was on prep for 6 months this year. I competed 3 times, pretty much 4 weeks apart. So I did end of October, end of November, mid-December. So I prepped for 6 months, and that 20 seconds that you're on stage is literally worth every second of blood, sweat, and tears and sleepless nights that you put into your prep. Um, Being able to showcase your hard work like that and like really get into like that alter ego of yourself, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, it just makes everything worth it. Everything. I can't even describe that feeling. It's nothing like I've ever felt before.
And when you're on stage, does time seem to slow down, or does it speed up, or is it sort of a mixture?
Oh man, I feel like I mean, like I said,
If
it
you're posing in that
30
same pose for 5 minutes, I mean, I bet it doesn't feel like 5 minutes.
Yeah, so when you do your individual routine, it does go by in the blink of an eye. It's 20 seconds for you to showcase your best angles, your sass, all the things. Um, but when the comparison rounds, when it's time for that, that time does go by forever. You feel every single second that they're darting their eyes from this person to you to them and switching us and whispering to the other judges and moving you. That time slows down exponentially. That's the worst, is comparisons.
What's your go-to post-show meal?
Oh, pizza for sure, or nachos. Pizza or nachos.
Any place in particular, or do you just whatever's available and whatever's on?
Oh, I mean, I feel like nachos are nachos, but pizza, whew, there's a place in Ferndale, it's called Como's. It's to die for pizza. That's my absolute favorite.
Yeah, well, that sounds. I mean, for me too, pizza would probably be mine as well. But I mean, I love to talk post-show blues because that's one thing that is not talked about as much as it should be. And you want to talk about body image issues. And first of all, I'm one of the most insecure people on the planet, so I understand where a lot of these guests are coming from when it comes to that. But I mean, people do not understand a lot of times that look that you present on stage, that's not sustainable 24/7. And what was that like when you first realized that? That like, hey, I'm gonna have to put on some weight. And has it gotten easier for you to accept that as your career in the sport has gone on?
Yeah, it's definitely gotten easier. It's a mind F for sure though, because you train for so hard for so long. And yes, you're right. Stage lean is not sustainable and it comes with a lot of negatives. You don't sleep, you're literally a zombie to the world by
Oh yeah,
4
you're
p.m.
not at your healthiest by far.
Oh
Absolutely.
god, no. Everyone's like, "Oh, I wanna look like that." I'm like, "I promise you don't want the side effects. You don't want the side effects." And it is hard because logically, you have to put on some weight to get healthy, especially females and our hormones and all of the things. it's crucial to gain that weight back. It's still hard to see it on the scale. So I've really had to work on, mentally detaching emotion from the scale. Um, and I obviously weigh myself less frequently in my off season, just once a week to check in with my coach. Um, but yeah, it's like, and I feel like too, and I don't know if it's the same for men, but I know for women, we've been programmed to, you are successful when the scale goes down. When the scale goes up, you are failing. So even if you need to gain the weight, we've just been programmed into, oh my gosh, we're doing something wrong, we're gaining weight. Even though
Every guy
logically,
that I've talked to is like, "I don't give a yeah, just let the pounds go up. I don't care." Yeah, yeah.
so different for women. So but for me, I'm trying to really focus on all of my other biofeedback markers. So the scale's going up, but my sleep quality, oh my gosh, I'm sleeping like a baby. I have more energy. I don't snap at my kids. I'm a nicer mom. um all of that kind of stuff too. Oh my god, my lifts have been great. Carbs, strength, all of that's increasing. And actually, for me, I got to my lowest stage weight ever for nationals in December, and man, I look back at like peak week photos or like right before peak week, and I was like, woo, it's like a skeleton. Like really. And for normal life, I actually didn't like for stage, that's what you need to look like, right? And you fill out on show day. But you look at yourself and I was like, wow, I look really unhealthy. And for normal life, I don't even like how I look right now. So like I said, I'm trying to detach the emotion from the scale and just like, I actually like how I'm filling out. You know what I mean? I have my face isn't sunken in. My husband likes that I'm not looking like a skeleton anymore. He's like, yeah, keep eating kind of thing. So, there's benefits to the weight gain for sure. It's really nothing but benefits because for me, it's not like I'm just going to turn into a lazy couch potato. I'm putting that extra food towards my training, towards recovery, toward all of that stuff. I'm using my food as fuel. So it is only benefits.
Do your kids basically just like hide in their rooms the last month of your prep and just be like, "Oh, just avoid mommy at all costs," just
Right? I know. Uh, I think they're too little to still like fully understand prep. And my oldest is only 7.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think he like fully understands what it means and what it like does. But as they get older, they'll see.
Yeah,
They'll see.
just be like, "Yeah, just, make sure that you're in the other room or something like that the next time." But no, yeah, and that's again one of the things that I've always said the unsung heroes of this podcast are the significant others and the family of the bodybuilders on this show because they deal with a lot. But what was your friends and family's reaction like when you announced to them first off that you wanted to get into bodybuilding?
So actually, my husband competed before
Oh,
me.
wow. Yep.
So I got into competing, but my husband, he did his first competition in 2016. He did men's physique. Um, so that kind of I went to his show and I kind of saw the kind of glitz and the glamour and whatever, and then that was so he did his first show in 2016, and that's when I ended up getting pregnant. Actually, it was like right after he competed. um but after that, so it was already on my mind. It's funny though, I will say more people definitely understood and supported my husband doing it. And then when I wanted to do it, it was a little different. It's more skin, and I feel like, unfortunately, as far as men are concerned, this doesn't happen. But I feel like people really over sexualize female competitors.
Yes.
I know there were people in my life that were like, but sticking your butt out like that, having them look at your butt. I'm like, they're literally looking at the shape of my glutes. And people, well, he gets to wear board shorts and you're in like a thong. And I'm like, they don't judge his glutes in men's physique. They judge my glutes. Like it's not when you're in the world, that they're literally just looking at your shape and your structure and literally judging you on your muscle mass and your symmetry and all those things. But people that aren't in that world don't understand. I've been doing it long enough now that they're kind of like, oh, yep, Toni's on prep. Oh, yep, stage shots look great. Like they're used to it now. But a lot of people didn't understand, and I think a lot of people still don't understand. But at least now they're they they're like, we don't understand, but we want to support you. So it's definitely come a long way from when I first started.
Well, and that's great to have. And I always tell people when they're like, "Yeah, they show so much, so they show so much." See, that's my one tongue tied and twisted moment. I got it out of the way, as we're getting closer to the end here. But they always, talk about, like, oh, you show so much skin, but I always say to them, look at the male bodybuilders that just wear that little thong thing, and you see everything. It's like that. You want to talk
Yeah.
about embarrassing? I would
Yeah.
not be wearing that to show off. You get, yeah. So, but it works both ways too. But yeah, for women too, especially, yeah, like that one pose. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna be honest. I wish that they would find a different way to show that pose then, because when people see that pose, then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you're just like stripping almost for people." And it's like, "No, you're not. You're just showing up." If only they could find a different way or a different angle maybe to
I
to do it
know.
at. Yeah, that would be so much easier. But yeah, I'm glad that at least they're starting to sort of accept it, because yeah, that makes things so much easier when you have that accept, because I've had people that have had trouble with their families, and then that just so makes it so much more harder. But I also like to talk about, you're not just the average looking woman too. And I mean, even walking out in public, even the way that you're looking right now, post show, you still might get stares. I sort of like to compare it sometimes to being like a mini celebrity, where it's just you are going to draw people's attention just because you're not sort of the normal look that most people are aware of. What has that been like for you as your career's gone on? Has it gotten easier for you to just accept it, like you are going to get some extra added attention?
So I actually, funny enough, have had my first experience with something like that this past summer. Um, in my own circle, people are used to how I look. At my gym, people know me. They know I compete. This is normal for me. I, but this past summer, I went up north to like a weekend bachelorette party. Okay, I really only knew the bride and her sister, so all of the other friends and family members I didn't know. And it was summer. We were going boating, all the things. I think the biggest thing for me is like my upper body. People are kind of like, wow, that girl lifts. But so that was an interesting experience because all of those girls, like when I got there, unpacked all that, whatever, we're going to the beach and they're all like, how much do you bench press? How much do you whatever? Like how much can you squat? And it's like it makes me a little uncomfortable
That's when
because
you no, that's when you just come up with a per response. I've never touched a weight in my entire life. I don't know what you're talking about.
right. And I'm just in my normal circle, I'm not used to having to answer those questions because people just know. So to be like, I don't know, when I'm not in the element of being on stage, that kind of attention is kind of like daunting and kind of takes me back a little bit. And I experienced for the first time ever a woman who at this bachelorette party who got drunk and was kind of like, I'm obsessed with you and your muscles. And I'm kind of like, wow, I'm gonna cut you off right there. So that was definitely
Was she in like
interesting.
that feel up stage at like when I was in college, or a lot of drunk girls that would just come up and just like start feeling my arms and stuff like that all the time, and you're just
Yep.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. This woman did that at that bachelorette party, and I was kind of like, I'm married, I
yeah.
got kids, I'm straight, and she's like, so am I, and I'm like, okay, okay,
For me, let's be honest, it was the college years, so I'd pump it up a little bit for him. Just
right.
that's a different time in my life. We're not happening now, but yeah, I remember those times too. So yeah, that can become awkward at times too. Yeah, it's just ugh.
Yeah. So, and it's funny when we were in Orlando for nationals the next day, we went to Disney Springs, and I was like, "Let me eat all of the things." And I was waiting in line for the bathroom, still had a little bit of the tan on, stuff like that. And I was in the bathroom, and one woman was like, "Did you compete at the show yesterday?" And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "I can tell by the tan and your muscles." And I was like, "Yup." She's like, "Are you enjoying eating today?" I said, "Hell yes."
Yep. Yep, I mean, hey, and it's great that you have those encounters like that too, because yeah, I mean, I found that for all the negative ones that they have, especially nowadays, there's so many more positives that come with it too. So there's that. But now, I mean, my least favorite question to ask, but I gotta ask it: what is your relationship like with cardio? Because I hate cardio more than life itself. And when I say cardio, I mean like running. Like I can walk for forever, and that's totally fine with me. I live close to nature parks that I go on walks all
Yeah.
the time or bike rides. But unfortunately, when you do become a bodybuilder, you sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio. What is your relationship with cardio like?
Um, It's gotten better. I'm an elliptical girl. Luckily, we have an elliptical in our basement. But I like to self-sabotage by watching cooking and baking shows while I do all my cardio. So yeah, so since I was
What's
on
the appeal
prep,
of that? Because I've had so many
I
guests that
don't
are
know.
like that. I was like, what? That's just
Something's wrong with
torture.
me. I don't
Yeah.
know. But so since I was prepping during the holidays, I got really into watching the holiday baking championship while I was doing cardio. Um, I mean, obviously, I prefer lifting. Like, let me deadlift, let me shoulder press all day long. But yeah, I guess I hate hit. cardio. Luckily, my coach doesn't ever really make me do much. It was mostly just steady state. I can stay on the elliptical forever. If I have a good show on, that's fine. But if you make me do sprints or anything like that, like screw that. Or like get on the Airdyne bike and do like sprints on the air. No, absolutely not. That kind of cardio, I hate. Hate.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, there's different types of cardio, but I mean, I'm one of those people where like you try to get me on elliptical, and I'm fine with it. But if I lived in a climate that was sunny and warm, year round, I would be outside, constantly going on walks because that's what I love. I mainly do it at nighttime though, because that's there's nobody on the trails then, and it's just more peaceful out there. You don't got to worry about those damn mosquitoes. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there. But you mentioned sleep and how your sleep is so much better. That's the one thing that frustrates so many people because they say, like, oh, sleep isn't that important. I always tell them, well, yeah, then go and pull an all-nighter and then tell me how that works for you working out the next day. But what does your sleep schedule look like now? Because I mean, especially going into your show, I mean, everyone's sleep schedule is horrible. And that's the funny thing is that like you're trying to, you know, shred down and it's like you're not gonna have as much sleep. So that's always just been a conundrum for me. But what does your sleep schedule look like now?
So, I mean, we still go to bed. I mean, we put our kids to bed at like 8 o'clock. I do whatever, catch up on some work, but we're usually like in bed with a movie on by like 9. The nice thing is now, though, I just don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn to do cardio. I can wake up early and get work done, or just like if I want to do 20 minutes on the elliptical, I can. Or if I want to do some stretching or yoga, I can. But the hardest part with being like stage lean and sleep is I don't know, and I don't know much of the science behind it, but literally my sleep was crap when I was stage lean. It's like your body just is like, what are you doing? It's like in survival mode and it's trying to protect you from starving. So I'm assuming that has a lot to do with why your sleep cycle sucks. It would take me forever to fall asleep. And then also having to get up so early when my cardio was really high, that was terrible. And now it's like I get into bed and we put a movie on or something, and it's like I'm getting heavy at it like 9:30, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of great. And I don't have knowing that I don't have to wake up to do cardio, I think takes the stress off of it and allows my body to just fall into a peaceful sleep.
Yeah, I'm still living that 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. because I work normally 11 to 7. I got the day off today, so I mean, luckily that's so I can sleep in and I still have a little bit of a later lifestyle. So I look at some of these bodybuilders, and I mean, back in the even a couple years ago when I was going to bed at like 3 or 4 a.m., some of them were getting up at that time, and I'm just like, okay, that's just
Well, I used to be a night owl.
yeah.
Absolutely. I would be up super late and sleep late, but my lifestyle now just is different.
If only you could just like tap your kids on the head and then they'd shut down again, just like an alarm or something like that. But unfortunately, that is not the case. But how important is it for you too to also serve it? Use this sort of as an influence for your kids, not just to like work out and stuff, because you're not gonna like force your kids to do that, but like just to serve as an example of like how you can still be healthy at any point in your life. How important is that to you to sort of just show that as an example?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, I really just kind of look at it as we have one body and we really have to take care of it. And for me, knowing what I know now as a mom, it's like it's my moral obligation to make sure that my kids learn that food is fuel, first of all. I think it's also different raising boys.
Yep.
I have friends that have girls that are super young that are already dealing with like body image issues in like second, third grade, which is terrifying to me. So I don't ever, but even for boys, I know that they can struggle with that kind of stuff too. So we talk a lot about how food is fuel. Like my oldest plays football, they both swim, all of that kind of stuff. So it's like we have to make sure, we eat, prior to training so we can, fuel our bodies. And we talk a lot about fruits and vegetables being healthy and stuff like that. And one thing I do, I'm not somebody who is crazy about restricting treats or anything like that. I always say if you eat a balanced dinner, by all means go ahead and have some ice cream because I'm the same way. I want my vice is Oreos. I want my Oreos after dinner. So who am I if my kids eat a balanced dinner to not let them have a treat? You know what I mean? So mostly we just focus on prioritizing food as fuel and we need to eat our colors. We really prioritize fruits, veggies, and like proteins and stuff at our house. To keep us strong and to build our muscles and all of that kind of stuff. So, and for me raising boys, it's important for them to see, yeah, their dad trains hard and he works out, but so does mom. You know what I mean? So I want them, I don't know, I want them to kind of definitely have a strong see the aspect of a strong, healthy woman as their mom. So
Well, and I mean, I can say the most jaw-dropping thing for me that I've learned in this entire podcast was just how bad that body image thing affects females. Because I had I mean, like, obviously I have friends with females, I had girlfriends and stuff like that, and I knew like a little bit of it, but just hearing all these stories on this podcast has just really made me just appreciate more of what, the female side on this planet really has to go through. Because
Mhm.
yeah, I can even remember just a story about me. Like for football, there was a lightweight and there was a heavyweight team. I put weights in my pockets so that I would weigh enough so that I could be on the heavyweight football team.
Mhm. Yeah.
I added about 10 pounds because I think the cutoff was like 140 and I was like 130. So I was like,
Yep.
okay, I gotta put some weights in my pocket so I can, weigh enough so I can be on the team. So I did that even, but yeah, it's just so night and day and things. And that's made me just appreciate, what more they go through. And yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, like lucky you have boys where they'll just be like, they'll eat anything and they don't give a crap about,
Yes. Yes,
oh,
exactly.
I look overweight. Who
I'm
cares?
blessed.
Yeah.
I'm blessed that I have boys. I don't know how the girl moms deal with it, the drama and all the things. My boys are pretty easy. So,
Oh, just wait until they get to teenage years, then
oh yeah.
it'll be a different story. But yeah, I still to this day have to sometimes apologize to my mom, just in general, and just be like, yep, sorry, sorry for my teenage years. But as we wrap things up here, I mean, if someone were to walk up to you and say, Tony, there's one thing that you could change about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it, would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Ooh, changed about the sport of bodybuilding. That's a tough one. Um, Man, I don't know.
I can give you
I
mine while you're
do.
thinking.
What do you think?
Well, obviously the money thing is obviously just a thing
Oh
too. Where
my god, yeah, it's so
I have said like if you are a pro in this sport, you should not have to have another job to like support yourself.
no.
Like that should be just. But then obviously too like how bipolar some of these judging things can be, where it's like we want you a little bit more of a shredded look, then we want you a little bit more of a lean look, and then we want you a little bit more of a bulkier ish look. We want you a little bit
It
more
does
fuller.
change
Yeah.
year to year.
Mhm.
It does change year to year. The judging is tough
Well,
because
even
you're
show
right.
to show, like if you do shows weeks apart, they're like, "Oh, we want you a different look." It's like, good luck changing that in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's okay, so, yeah, trying to think about it, I love the sport. The judging is very subjective. So, for example, my first 2 shows, but my feedback both times was a little leaner in the glutes and hamstrings. We did that. Well, then I came in too hard for nationals. Every single judge said, "You were too lean and your glutes and hamstrings came in too hard." And I was like, "Well, son of a," well, my first 2 shows were in Michigan, my second one or my third one was in Florida. Totally different judges, all of that kind of thing, too. But I think too, um, I don't know. I think not, and this might not be, changing bodybuilding, but I think changing the stereotype of, I know I mentioned this before, but the over sexualization of women in bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, bro, just let me lift weights, okay? Like, it's not about that.
Yeah.
So I think that's tough. But yeah, and it is. It's really expensive, and the judging for sure. I wish there was a way to keep it more standardized at regional shows and national shows like across the country, across the world, really. Because if you look at bikini girls in Europe compared to the bikini division in America, it's all NPC, it's all IFBB, but they look so different. It's just not as standardized as I feel like it should be, the criteria.
Can I just say I was not aware of the over sexualization of female bodybuilding before I got into this podcast, and that was the one thing that I learned where I was just like, "What? Like that's a
Oh
whole
man, the
thing?"
creepy DMs.
Oh, good.
It's
Even
crazy.
I get them, and I'm a guy that hosts a podcast that happens to have female health and fitness competitors on, and I still get comments of like, "Hey, baby, what are you doing?" I was like, I'm a guy, right? Like you clearly never watched the podcast, so yeah, I can't. Yeah, that to me is just like if I could change one thing, that would honestly be the thing too. But unfortunately, you can't really fix stupid, so that's one thing that I've
Nope.
unfortunately learned in my life. But yep. And I mean, I'd love to have you on a year from now to talk about what you've been up to since then, and where'd you like to be at a year from today when it comes to just your bodybuilding, when it comes to just your overall life. What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
So, I'm actually taking all of 2022 off. I have not had more than like a 6-month off season since 6 or 8 month off season since I started in 2018. So my goal this whole year for 2022 is to not prep and just get my health back, my internal health. My last set of blood work was very subpar. So I want to continue to get strong and definitely hit some PRs this year.
Work on those glutes.
Oh, you work on the glutes, always working on the glutes for sure. And, just building up my clientele too and spending the year just like really focusing on my business and helping women feel confident and strong and capable when it comes to being in the gym and their nutrition and all the things. And hopefully, when I step on stage in 2023, we'll be IFBB Pro. That's obviously the goal. That was the goal for 2021. It didn't happen. So 2023, that'll
I
be
think if
my
you give
year.
yourself a full year off, yeah, there's no way that you don't win. But is there any place other than Instagram that people could contact you if they're looking for some training or some coaching? Do you have like a website or anything? Or
Instagram is honestly the best
okay.
place. I do have like a basic landing page, but my Instagram is going to be my go-to to reach me. I mean, I know Facebook is still kind of a thing. I'm on Facebook. I have a business page on Facebook. You can find me there, but most people find me through Instagram.
And I mean, I always go by the thing that I tell people: if you're gonna message these people, I never send anyone on Instagram anything that I wouldn't be sending my mom. That's the theory that I go to really when you're doing that. Now, again, if you're like from Alabama, then that's I don't know what's gonna happen then, with that because that's a whole different. You never know, but I always got to dig at some Alabama people every once in a while. Even though I've had guests from Alabama on, I was like, I do give you guys crap. It's just because I'm a college football fan, as you can tell, and I hate their success. But
Well, that and we're from the Midwest,
we're from
so
the Midwest too, yeah, where it's just we got to deal with this cold weather while you guys got to, oh yeah, it's 50 degrees, I got to bundle up, and it's yeah,
yeah.
I hate you. So yeah, it's
Let
just
me pray for 50 degrees right now.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and is there any general piece of advice that you would give to someone who's just walking up to you to say like, hey, I want to get started just in bodybuilding or just in health and fitness in general?
Honestly, quit beating around the bush and just go. Go do something. Don't wait for anyone else's approval. Don't wait for this big sign. I'm a firm believer in just jumping in 2 feet first and learning as you go. So just go. Go to the gym, and I know that there's a lot of bad people to watch, but I mean, if you see someone and you like, you know what, like that girl looks in shape, go ask her what she does, or even a guy, anything. Do group fitness, do something. Just start. Don't just sit around and like think of the perfect time or you need the perfect clothes or whatever. Just go.
Well, and I gotta add on to that too. Make sure that they're done with their set because I've had some times where people have come up to me mid set and ask me questions. I'm just like, just give me 15 seconds, and then
That
I'll get
literally
to.
just happened to me
Yep,
today.
yep. It's like just be a little bit more aware. And I mean, obviously, like I'll be nice to you and I'll talk to you. And that's another thing too is that most people thought that like bodybuilders, oh, there must be like some of like they might just be like mean and stuff like that. It's like no, they're some of the nicest people that you'll ever meet. So yeah, just go up to them. But again, make sure that it's the right time. I mean, don't obviously go, when they're mid set and stuff like that. But again, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Oh my gosh. So I love and adore my coach and his wife. My coach is Adam Atkinson from See You Later Leaner. He's based out of Columbus, Ohio. Him and his wife are just like, I cherish them and our relationship. I've been with him for 18 months and they are just like the most wonderful people ever. So definitely want to shout him out. And my posing coach, Lucia Malave, she's actually competing at the Arnold as well in March. Is it? Yeah, March. And I'm actually going to the Arnold as a spectator with another friend of mine. So very excited to see her on stage in person. So yeah, definitely my posing coach Lucia and my cardio nutrition coach and my training coach Adam Atkinson. They are incredible people.
I will leave a link down for them to own it. And again, everyone, go and follow her on her Instagram page. I'll leave a link down there. Now, buyer beware, you will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies and, get in shape. But again, Toni, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your story with us. It was just an absolute delight, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, again, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.